Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shafiul Suleiman. Ahead of the 2023 general election, a supposed alliance talks between the New Nigeria People's Party and the Labour Party was gaining traction, at least amongst proponents of a strong and credible alternative. However, the inability of the arrowheads of the two contending forces to agree on who takes the second fiddle due to their perceived claims of political superiority and electoral values over one another appeared to have made it almost impossible. To cap it up, recent statements by the presidential candidates of the NNPP, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and a vice presidential running mate or a placeholder of the Labour Party, Dowing Okupe, indicate a seeming collapse of these promising alliance talks. To discuss these issues and more, we are joined by a spokesperson for the Third Force Movement, a supposed midwife of this alliance, Dr. Yunusa Tanko. Welcome to Daily Politics.
Thank you very much for having me.
We also have in the studio Dr. Agbo Mejo, who is the National Publicity Secretary of the New Nigeria People's Party, the NNPP, one of the parties in talks. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
To complete the picture, we also have an independent analyst, a senior lecturer with the International Institute of Journalism, IIJ, talking about Uche Akunebu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
But before we commence the discussion proper, let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's still Daily Politics, and our talking point is collapse of talks between NNPP and the Labour Party ahead of the 2023 elections. And now the discussion begins. Let me start with Dr. Yunusa Tanko. I know you put so much energy, time and what have you, towards this third force movement that you've been talking about over the time. The talks between the NNPP and the LP appeared promising. Nigerians, especially those who want to see a credible alternative, away from the dominant parties, the PDP and the APC, happen to welcome this idea. But it has been threatened by the grandstanding of the two contending forces. How do you feel?
Well, I must say I'm not too happy. I thought we've set an agenda because it took us decades for us to really come to agree that none of us can really get to this particular, can we cross this particular Rubicon. But luckily, we were able to get to this level. And a lot of people, a lot of doubting Thomases didn't even believe that we even can get to this level. When we posed that particular poster into the public domain, the kind of reception that it got from the Nigerian people was so overwhelming to even us that we thought probably we will not get anywhere. So, but really, I must commend the leaders. Both leaders have come to really agree and know the number of enormity of the needs that Nigeria has for these particular two gladiators. Okay. They come to this particular belief that none of them, none of them agree that they can do it alone. That one is a basic fact. So for them to have identified that particular thing, it is a way forward. And you can confirm from anyone that 80% of the discussion was already been made. The only area is about the presidency or no president. So we are hoping that the doors can still be open
Okay, I hope that it can still be, I mean, the talks can still be revived, you know. But then the body language or the statements made by those critical personalities, your principal, for instance, Dr. Rabiu Musa Konkoso, even though he didn't rule out, you know, the possibility of this alliance, but from the body language, it seemed almost difficult because he has made it clear that he's not going to deputize, you know, for the Labour Party presidential candidate. And that is the bone of contention. Where does this take us to?
Well, first, I think this is not the first time as a political party we're making our stand very clear on this. You know, since this whole thing started, we've always insisted that somebody has to be the president and somebody has to be the vice. And we've always insisted that our principal, you know, looking at his pedigree, looking at his achievements in politics, and then looking at the experience, above all, his experiences, you know, having been governor twice, you know, and then having been a minister for defense, and then a senator. We believe that those antecedents are enough and should ordinarily give him an edge over His Excellency Mr. P2B. But somehow, it is important that we let Nigerians know that in politics, no route is closed. You know, it's still open. We are still talking. We expect that the talks would resume. The stalemate you are seeing now is a temporal setback. There's no doubt about that. And it is because of this sole reason that we're talking about who should be the president. But, you know, like His Excellency Mohammed Rabiu Kwankwaso did say, you know, during his interview with the Channels Television, he made it very clear that if he has to be vice to P2B, for instance, you know, it's like letting his numerous followers down, you know, because when you talk of structure, the strength is there.
Okay.
You know, so
we'll talk about the structure and perhaps what they want to bring to the table. But then, Uche, looking at the scenario, I mean, the situation we find ourselves, the Nigerian political landscape is dominant. I mean, it's dominated by two major political parties, the PDP and the APC. It's either you are in this or you are in that. And then we've seen a lot of cross-carpeting among politicians, you know, trying to, especially when their interests is at stake. So Nigerians are beginning to, I mean, they're yearning for a credible alternative to these political parties. And then there's so much talked about the third force has been elusive over the years. What do we make up with this recent attempt and the position of the two contending forces, Peter Obi and Konkoso? Why is can their grandstanding be justified? Are they really out to serve the nation, to serve the people, or their own personal interests?
Thank you for that question. I think it's important we take a historical voyage into alliances and merger in Nigeria. Before independence in 1960, there was the general election of 1959, which made it possible for, this Northern People's Congress to have 142.
The NPC, yeah.
The Northern People then to have 142 seats. What's it called? NCNC, 89 seats. Then Action Group, 73 seats. So by that, there was no clear-cut winner. So the election was inconclusive. So it became to
go into alliances.
Yes, it became apparent that alliance has to be in place. So at the end of the day, NCNC and the MPC got it, and they formed the government. Down the line, before 1963, that alliance collapsed. And there was equally another talk for another alliance before 1964 general election, which now Azikiwe had to look the side of Awolowo, the AG and the NCNC wanted to do an alliance again. And they call it UPGA. United Progressive Grand Alliance.
That's right.
Are you with me? At the end of the day, that alliance collapsed before the 1964 election. And what made it to collapse? That is the crux of the matter. Who has it?
So this issue of sharing position has been a nightmare.
It has been there.
Alliances in
Yes,
Nigeria.
it has been. That has been the major problem, the knotty issue. Who has it?
But the question is,
Yes.
why should it be an issue if, for instance, politicians, as they claim, they are out to serve the people and they have the interests of the people at heart? Like now, all of them are claiming to salvage the country. All of them are claiming to change the narratives in the country. If they believe in the same trajectory, why is it difficult to align?
That is the problem. You know, politicians have this sense of entitlement. It must be me. If it is not me, it cannot work. All of why this alliance is having a stalemate as we are talking now is the sense of entitlement. It must be me. If it is not me, it cannot work.
And what does that tells the ordinary voter or Nigerians?
What does it?
What does it tell in terms of the personalities involved?
It tells us that they are intolerant. We don't play politics of compromise. Politics of compromise is very important for us to move forward. If you don't play politics of compromise, how can you move forward? Everybody will stuck to his gun.
That's right. Okay, coming back to the issues at stake. I understand at some point there was a criteria that was advanced, to be a yardstick for determining, who takes what. And then there was this claim, by the presidential candidate of the of the NNPP, that it was actually kicked against by the other side of the divide. They felt it's not going to be, in their favor. They talk about, I think, years of service experience and what have you. The criteria, I'm sure you are in the picture. So, was it that same criteria, could not be used effectively to arrive at the decision? What exactly is causing this stalemate?
You see, our narrative is to look at the situation and the mood of the country. We are now having a northerner coming who has already been the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then we're now thinking that, okay, the next person to be handed over to, even though it's not constitutional.
Yes, sir.
But for fairness and equity, we have a situation in our hands. We have issue of sectionalism. We have the issue of insecurity. We have the issue of economic downtrodden. We have the issue of unemployment. We have the issue of completely annihilation of even the people from the grassroots. That has bedeviled our problem. The problem are multifaceted. So in order to find solution to it, a lot of people are saying that, okay, let's gravitate towards the South and give leadership to the South, just for equity, fairness, and so that we can have peaceful coexistence. And if you look at the historically, this same situation we find ourselves was almost repeated in 1993 during the Abiola issue. And then majority of the Northerners voted for Abiola. But unfortunately, certain clique of people denied that particular position from happening. Now imagine what we suffered within that period to get to this particular situation. It could have been avoided only in 8 years, and Abiola would have ruled and would have long been gone. We have to go back to this particular issue of taking another person from the Southwest, which happened to be Olusegun Obasanjo, and then to mediate. Even Obasanjo himself lost in this particular, it is only the North who actually voted for him. Why do we have to go through with all of this particular problem? Just few years will take care of all of this agitation, and then we'll have been back as a united country. These are some of the major yardsticks.
Yeah, but then the presidential candidate of the NNPP
Yes.
also advanced an argument
Yes.
that beyond looking at the regional permutations and what have you, there is also a need to look at the winning formula, or what will earn, what will give the victory. For instance, you're looking at where the votes will come from. And he said, perhaps looking at the strength of the voting population in the country, he has an edge over the candidate of the LP. Isn't that a strong argument to push forward?
That is left for the Nigerian people to decide. As we speak today, we have a Peter Obi who has resonated with the Nigerian youth who have been accused of being dominant. Today, you cannot imagine. Even his posters, even his billboard is not being built by him. It's been done by people. They believe in that particular cause. And you need to read the minds of the people. The Nigerian youth calculatively represent 51% of the total vote of Nigeria. 51%. And so if they decide on their own to support the candidate,
yes,
even though they decide
percentage is one thing and then participation is another.
Of course, and that is the reason why majority of them now have decided to go get their PVC. You could see the mad rush that is going through, even though they neglected that particular position long before now. And then when you look at the permutation of even the North is divided into three. North Central, Northwest, and Northeast. And there are a lot of calculation going on as okay, where is the dominancy coming from? Northwest, isn't it? Okay, Northwest cannot only bring the presidency of the Federal Republic.
Perhaps that's the reason for the alliance.
Exactly, exactly. So for us, we look at this permutation and say, look, it is better for us to work together and produce. It will have been, people started saying, let me give you a small gist. People even started saying that they believe that if the candidates could work together, by 12 noon, the election would have been over. Some even went ahead to say, some even went ahead. Let me give you one. Some people went ahead to say that what they will do is that they are going to ask these two candidates to go into a room and tell them that they should give us an answer within 1 hour. If they don't give us an answer, they will go there and beat the both of them.
Is it that easy?
You see, that is the kind of agitation.
Is it that easy? We've seen, he talks about alliances in the past that have also failed.
It's an agitation.
Okay, let me get your perspective, Agbo. Considering the arguments, being put forward by the other side of the talks, the need for you to consider that, they are the people at the moment, so to speak. They are gaining traction. They talk about the youth's composition. They talked about, acceptability. And then they are also saying that your principle, yes, he has strong following, but it is restricted to a particular region. It doesn't have the spread. Does this argument hold any water?
It doesn't at all. It doesn't. You see, I'm always taken aback each time I'm confronted with this argument that our principal is a sectional person, that is somebody whose strength is concentrated in an area. And you begin to ask yourself, what are the basis for, such, for people arriving at that? Yes, he's a northerner, a northwesterner for that matter, from Kano. But you see, even on video clips of his visits around the country, the other day he was in Edo State. It took him so many hours to even get out of the arrival hall of the airport. Those ones are not northerners. Last week he was in Ekiti, you understand, getting through to even pay courtesy visits on a few, persons around Ado Ekiti was a big problem. How can you be seeing that level of, attraction to the people? And you still dismiss one politician as being somebody whose energy is concentrated in the place. The truth about it is that, in politics, people say whatever they want to say. And I was even going to see if I could join issues with my colleague, Malam Tanko, who has been in the trenches for a very long time. He served as chairman of NCP for 2 successful terms and all of that. And I was beginning to wonder if he also thinks the way I think, that it's one thing to go get these PVCs. It's another thing to come out on election day. It's not even coming out on election day, but coming out with those PVCs, and those PVCs are celebrated by Nigerians on the social media as having sold their votes and all of that. He doesn't seem to understand that that is one of the biggest challenges we have now. The rush for these PVCs is not an answer to this problem. What we are saying, which is what we have always said in NNPP, and which is what His Excellency Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso has repeatedly said, is yes, we are interested in ensuring that the country stays together. And like everybody is thinking, the fair thing to do is to ensure that all parts of the country takes a shot at the presidency. But we are looking at the indices on the ground now. We are saying that Nigeria is just trying to come out of a serious quagmire. And so the issue of zoning and all of that shouldn't be, it shouldn't be an issue that anybody should bother about now. What Nigerians should be thinking about is, how do we completely get out of this mess? Because the country is messed up, How do we get out of it? So I think that is what should preoccupy our minds as Nigerians for now. Okay. And remember that it is one thing to get into office. Just before I got here, I was having some discussions with some people who came to see me. And they were saying, can't we do this thing in such a way that there would be a gentleman agreement that as His Excellency Kwankwaso is stepping out of office, will be stepping in. And we said, if we get to that level, we don't have any issues with that.
Okay.
But what is important
meaning
is
that whoever get the first slot will do one term and then give it to the next.
well, that is for the electorates to decide.
Well, okay.
But for us as a party, the simple and gentleman agreement we would want to have with the Labour Party is, by the time we are going, they will come in.
That is, if it is ready to take that. And we'll come back to their own position too. But then, what does this opportunity present, not only to the political parties, to Nigerians, looking at the 2023 election and what it means to ordinary Nigerians? Everyone talks about the situation the country has found itself today. Some say this alliance, presents a lot of opportunities, not just to the candidates, but to Nigerians. We talked about so much fragmentations, we talked about so much divisions, and then these two contending forces are coming from two different, zones of the country, and especially the zones that are seen to be at loggerheads, so to speak. What does this alliance present to them and to Nigerians, and why are they not taking advantage of this very important opportunity?
It beats me hollow that they're not taking that opportunity, because as it stands now, there's despondency in the land. Serious despondency in the land. It's caused by the ruling party. And this is a great opportunity.
And the ruling party will tell you it also inherited it from the opposition party.
If they inherited it, why can't they solve it? That is the question. If they inherited it, why can't they solve it? So Nigerians are now rooting and looking for a political party that will come and give them succor. And this alliance would have presented that opportunity for Nigeria to have succor by having something like a third force, so that we can try a third force.
But then talking about political party, before you leave that,
yes.
Nigerians, the voting pattern or the understanding, the awareness among Nigerians largely has to do with the political parties themselves. You hardly hear people talk about any other political parties beyond outside these two dominant political parties. And then, whichever political party you have on the ballot, some would say, might not necessarily have the desired impact, because a lot has to be done in terms of even getting people to know about the existence of that political party and what it represents. Isn't this a challenge? Because nobody seems to be talking about that. LP, a Labour Party, has been in existence. The NNPP also has been in existence, but they are parties that are almost non-existent. So how do they even, coming from the political party angle, how would they, if eventually they emerge, they align, how would they face this challenge?
Yes, political parties ought to sell themselves. But I must tell you one thing, because these two principals, both Engineer Rabi Kwankwaso and P2B, they have brought life to the two political parties. Both the NNPP and the Labour Party. They have brought life to it. And with that, if they can leverage on that life, there will be a major force.
But they can't go with two political parties. They have to choose one to run on it.
It is an alliance, but I don't know. If it's an alliance, this one is an alliance, not a merger. There's a difference between merger and alliance.
That's right.
I would say,
Yeah.
This is an alliance, not a merger.
But a candidate must emerge from one of the political parties. Whoever is going to be standing in for, representing the alliance would have to come from a political party.
Yes.
So that's the point I'm making.
Exactly. Yes, it has to come from a political. It has to come from a political party. Whether if it is Labour, it is the NNPP, it has to come from a political party.
Yeah. If it is Labour, for instance,
yes,
it also has its own internal issues.
Yes.
There is issues around, the factions within the Labour Party and what have you. There seems to be not on the same page too. I don't know, that perhaps may have been addressed, but then Dr. Yunus Tonko would add, give more light on that. Yeah. And then talking about the NNPP, Mr. Agbo is here.
Yes.
Relatively also unknown, so to speak. So, either way, it presents a challenge to the candidates and how they can reach out to Nigerians?
Yes, it is a challenge really, but that challenge can be overcome.
Okay.
Are you with me? That challenge can be overcome with these two figures in those parties. Because those figures are not ordinary figures in politics. And they have followers. Those followers will continue to follow them to any party they go to. And if there is a kind of coalition between these two political, they will merge forces. And those forces will stand forever. It will be formidable, at least to face the election.
By the way, we've seen an impact, during the 2015, how some political parties come together, even though they are beyond two, but they were able to make an impact. And
Yes.
today they are holding the ace in the country.
Exactly.
Dr. Tonko, I mean, coming back to some of these issues, from the statements made by these two contending people, I mean, especially a statement coming from the presidential running mate or the placeholder of the Labour Party candidate, Dono Kupe. He said this alliance talks are dead and buried, meaning they cannot be revived. But it appears it's still hopeful that the talks will be revived.
Sometimes in politics, there are information that you'll be privy to, and then you want to leverage on it. And you can almost hear Agbomijo almost collaborating with me on that particular issue. So that is just a simple fact.
So there is something that Nigerians are not
yes. At that point
aware
in time,
of.
what Udoyin was saying is that the discussion come to a dead end after all of them we couldn't agree on the issue of presidential or vice presidential candidate. And it was confirmed. But that does not mean that it cannot be resurrected. You understand? But it came to an end at that particular time. What we are saying is that we are running a movement. A movement, even as we talk about the PVC, for a point in time, the Nigerian youth were desperate. They are not interested in anything. They are not even interested. What you see is that go to any immigration office, what you find is an application of people who want to move out of this country. Many of them. In fact, to a point that visa and passport now is so difficult for you to get. But now that particular narrative has changed because of this particular movement. People now are, instead of going for that passport, they are looking for PVCs because they believe somebody has given them hope that we can do this, we can change the narrative. And so therefore, they are now scouting. So that particular PVC collection is not for anything, it's for them to vote for the candidate of their choice, which is at this particular time.
Even though that hope.
And truly, to give credit to Nigerian people, they were not stigmatized as regard to, they are not static as regard to one particular point. They wanted a position if these two people can work together. But where they cannot work together, they are ready to make their options.
Okay, we'll talk about that when we return, whether moving together or going their separate ways would be, the of advantage, to the two political parties. We'll look at that when we return. In case you're just joining us, the program is Daily Politics. And today we're looking at collapse of alliance talks between NNPP and the LP. And I've been interfacing with gentlemen in the studio, talking about Dr. Yunusa Tanko, spokesman of the Third Force movement, and of course Uche Akunebi, a senior lecturer with the International Institute of Journalism here in Abuja, and Dr. Agbomijo, who is also the National Publicity Secretary of the NNPP. We'll take a short break. When we return, the discussion will continue.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels. Leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Thank you very much for staying with us. It's still daily politics, and the talking point is collapse of talks, alliance talks between the NNPP, that is the New Nigeria People's Party, and the Labour Party, which created a lot of, apprehension, and of course is raising a lot of conversation among Nigerians, especially as we head towards 2023 elections. Just before the break, Dr. Yunusa is talking about the talks hitting a dead end, for instance, but then he's not ruling out the possibility of a revival. But one thing that Nigerians have come to know, in recent time, especially with the media appearances of your principles, so to speak, is that rather than engage in alliance talks or giving Nigerians hope, these personalities are busy demarketing themselves and demarketing their opponents. We've had, the Labour Party saying that the simple reason why Konkoso should not be the presidential candidate is because he comes from the Northwest. And of course, the incumbent president is also from the Northwest. Nigerians will be yearning for a shift. On the other hand, we've had your principal also saying that Northerners would not go for Peter Obi because of the prevailing conditions or situation in the Southeast and how they affected, if you like, the fragile relationship between people in these two enclaves. Why would they have to resort to this?
Okay, that's well, the truth is, I think that's probably maybe the assessment of a media man.
Oh, but it's in the public domain.
No, you see, one of the dangerous things we are seeing in this country now is it's good that the Nigerian youths have now woken up eventually, and they are now beginning to show interest in this process. They are interrogating the process. That's one good development. But one of the minuses we are seeing with this new reawakening is that a lot of them are taking advantage of the social media to push, quote people out of context and push dangerously into making some people who make utterances, on live programs like this, quoting them out of context and then, making them look as if they haven't spoken the truth or they haven't said what should be said. I have received series of calls, from media men like you since that interview, the last interview my principal had on channels, and they said, go through the interview and see where he didn't do well. And I read, I listened repeatedly, and I discovered that the man never said anything that was bad or that was injurious.
That he didn't talk about the reason why he would not concede to
his reason is simple. That's why I said people keep quoting others out of context. Why he said that was because he has a large followership, especially in the North. And what he said is, what will we be doing with this pool of followership if eventually I become vice to P2B? Would they be prepared to cast their votes for us? That's what he simply was talking about. But a lot of people have now quoted him out of context to say the North will not vote for the East, for an Easterner. The North will not vote. No, that's not what he said. What he said was, it will be easier if I am the presidential candidate and P2B is my vice. We will be able to put all these votes together from the North and then put what is available from the Southeast and then go down South, and then Southwest to go and scramble for votes. That's what he meant. It wasn't meant to demarket anybody. He wasn't talking of, because I can see a lot of people saying so many things. Some are even saying that the man has disdain for Southeasterners. They also tried to link him to a few comments, which I know he never made, that to be, this morning I got calls from some media men. They were asking me, Punch, specifically, they were asking me like, your principal is trying to link P2B to IPOB and all of that. But I've gone through that interview repeatedly. And most of the things he said there were the truth.
There were no security challenges,
exactly,
not necessarily
which is true.
Linking.
Which is true.
All right. So, Uche, looking at this serious challenge, we are at a point in our history where there is need for genuine reconciliation, where there is need for a pan-Nigeria personality to emerge as president. And then we're beginning to see the footprints, if you like, or the manifestations or the disposition of these two political parties. Some say even the Labour Party, Peter Obi political party and his followership is largely concentrated in one region. It's more like a regional champion too. Just like they say, Konkoso is also a regional politician. Now, what challenge does this present, to ordinary Nigerians who are yearning for a pan-Nigeria person who understands the dynamics of this country, who is also ready to address the problems of this country frontally without looking at regional affiliations?
No, thank you. Regional affiliation, you cannot rule it out. You cannot rule it. You come from a region. Everybody comes from a region. But the important thing is to have that pan-Nigerian spirit, no matter the region you come from. That is what Nigeria should be looking for, who have that pan-Nigerian spirit. And if you look at those two people, Nigerians know who have that pan-Nigerian spirit. They should be able to know who among them have that pan-Nigerian spirit. Are you with me to go for? What I want to advise on that alliance talk is that, in management, there's what is called SWOT analysis.
Strengths and weaknesses.
Yes, that is what the
threats, yeah.
people that went to that talk would have done. To look at it, do a SWOT analysis of the two personalities without minding whose us is God. And come out with somebody that would be acceptable to Nigeria among the two.
So Dr. Stanko, this is a challenge to you. Perhaps you need to involve or deploy the SWOT analysis to arrive at a yardstick. But whatever you're going to deploy, it behoves on these two personalities to come down from their high horses and to accept the fact that if actually it is true that they're working in the interest of Nigerians, in the interest of Nigeria, to do the needful and agree on a particular template that will work for all Nigerians.
Well, that is why when we put this particular issue on the front burner in the public domain, you could see the reaction. It was huge. So the SWOT analysis was already actually determined by the Nigerian people. And they made their position known clearly what they wanted.
How? Election did not take place.
Yes,
you only go around.
When you feel the pulse of the people, you could see exactly what the argument is turning towards. You could see the feeling of the Nigerian youth where they are interested in. In fact, to tell you the truth, what they even said was this. It may sound very funny. They said they are in control of their parents, they are in control of their boyfriends, and they are in control of their girlfriends, as the case may be. That where they notice that any of their girlfriends or their spouses is not interested in what they are interested in, they will go and keep the voter's card of their parent and take it away from them. That is the level.
Isn't that a threat?
That is the no. I'm just giving
but
you
we are
an example
but we are in a democratic dispensation where everybody is entitled to his choices.
Just like the women in a particular country did. When they noticed that the men were not responding to their, they said that okay, if it's emotional interest that you want, we will deny you of that particular emotional interest.
Yeah, but
these are some of the you see these are some of the interests that has reached that level. For us, that is why as statesmen, anytime we are talking as even pressmen, as press spokesperson, we need to watch what we say. Because what we say may be taken out of context at any point in time. What you say may not necessarily mean what they perceive. But when it goes out, people who are ready to cause me harm, they will make it. So you as a principal person, anytime you are making statement, you be very, very careful. And I got warning from some other person.
But can they suppress?
Is
it possible for them to suppress what is in their heart, what is in their mind?
Because
that's particularly what comes out when they ask questions.
What in their mind, when it comes out, it has to be meaningful in such a way that you will not be misconstrued. The pressman is always looking for what it will sell, what it will make meaning, and what will attract people to read. You understand? So it takes sometimes you're out of context. But for you as a leader, you must be very extremely careful what you say out. And when you say it, irrespective of what you mean, you can send a message of what you mean, but in a different language that people will not misconstrue. It's possible.
Okay, talking about that, there was also this concern that I had during Okupe talking about the fact that this alliance talk has collapsed 4 weeks ago. But they decided not to do the talking until the cat is laid out of the bag. Some say the interview, granted by your principal, appeared to have ignited, or opened the can of worms, if there is any. And that's what exposed the lapses in the merger. How are you managing this? I understand there are attempts or efforts to revive the talk. How do you intend to do this?
Thank you. You see, let me draw your attention to something that His Excellency Engineer Mohamed Rabiu Kwankwaso said while on air. He said there are fifth columnists in this whole thing.
Even though he didn't mention them anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
We were not expecting him to mention names on air.
That's right.
But he was only trying to tell Nigerians that, look, I am favorably disposed to this arrangement. And I also believe that my counterpart on the other side is also disposed to it. But maybe the clogs that we're experiencing could be coming from certain people that are in between. Otherwise, you begin to ask yourself, how will somebody, if you are genuinely interested in an arrangement, like Dr. Tanko has repeatedly said, yes, Nigerians, even me, I receive calls every minute. They keep telling me, sir, if you get this thing done, we'll go and sleep. And for us as a party too, we strongly believe that, gauging the mood of Nigerians. I don't want to be taken away by what the youths are saying. Because just recently in Ekiti, they sold votes and were dancing all over, saying that, hey, I sold my vote for 10,000 for free. So I never allow myself to get carried away by what the youth say. But what I'm trying to say is that I have this feeling that if it works, the job is easier, even for us as a party, because it's simple, If it doesn't work, there's no problem because we're all politicians. We'll go to the pool and test our strength individually.
But is it in your interest to go your separate ways? Because
going
separate ways will mean losing both sides.
No, when we started, we didn't start this arrangement with the mindset that P2B was going to come our way. You need to note that. But along the way, political exigencies, the developments, gave birth to the conception that we should have a union. Unfortunately, the line of discussion is what is now being truncated. And that's why he came out to say certain things are going wrong. Why will somebody, if you are genuinely interested in something, 4 weeks ago, you said talks had broken down. Last week, Tanko Unisa will attest to the fact that I was on air last week, giving Nigerians hope that we're talking. I said last week we were still talking. That means ab initio, certain persons went into these talks with misgivings that, if it wasn't going to go this way, we would not agree and all of that. But that won't help the situation. So what I'm trying to say largely is that it is our hope that it works. And like I said, in politics, no route is ever closed. Because we started this thing, we never knew that at a point, Labour Party was going to come our way. And I'm sure Labour Party also, under the leadership of my good friend, Barrister Abure, also did not start this movement with the mindset that they would meet NNPP at any point. But political...
It was the exigencies of the...
Exactly.
the
so what I'm saying is, in the event that we're unable to continue, we will go our ways. But let me also tell you, as a politician who has been on the field for over 21 years, not even a field politician, but a party administrator, I can tell you, and I think Dr. Tanko will attest to it, that if we go into this 2023 election the way we are now, we will never have an election that will be as good, or we probably, looking at the 2023 election, if you check through the records, you will see that we probably may not have had any election that will be good as this. Because like the lecturer was saying, you don't divorce politics from religious and ethnic sentiments. Even in most advanced democracies, you still see influence of religion.
But you use them positively.
Exactly.
Such that they will not undermine the process.
Exactly. So for the first time, Nigerians are faced with a wide array of very strong candidates. The strongest would have the day. We have Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the southwest. We have His Excellency P2B from the southeast. We have His Excellency Engineer Rabi Musa Kwankwaso from the northwest. And then His Excellency Atiku from the northeast. So for the first time, we're going to test the power of choices that Nigerians can make. Honestly, I've always insisted that in the event that no form of alliance works anywhere, of course, I agree that if it works, it will make the job easier. But if it fails to work, I'm telling you that this is the first time we will see real democracy at work. Because Nigerians will be forced to make their choices based on what they know about these candidates.
Talking about
and it's going to be great.
The choices could also go the other way around, because we're beginning to see the regional politicking and what have you, religious, regional, and whatever, in play. But then talking about fifth columnists, people who wouldn't want, these talks to continue, or wouldn't want to see the emergence of a strong alternative. Yes, of course, politicians would not just sit back and look at an opportunity or a situation that may put them on the edge. Even the major contenders, are said to be also in talks with some of these, I don't want to say smaller parties anyway. They don't want to hear that. But then they are also in talks with them, perhaps to disrupt the arrangement. What impact do you think this is making on this talks generally?
Okay. As to the political parties, from what I'm saying so far, you cannot rule out fifth columnists to start with. It will always be there. You always see fifth columnists operating everywhere. That is one of the tactics politicians use to, get advantage of power. Power is all about contestation. You can deploy any arsenal to their power. Fifth columnists are some of the things you can use to undermine your opponent or something like that. So we are seeing that happening. And I think I had the accusation as to that fifth columnist, and I don't want to mention them here. I don't want to mention them here. Right. But what I should advise in these circumstances is that no matter the activity of the fifth columnist, what you should be your underlining principle, objective is to make sure that the cause of that fifth columnist comes to naught. Their cause comes to naught, that it will not work. Whatever evil that we are planning, it cannot work. That is the only thing that I can advise the alliance. If not, if they should go their separate way to the tent of Israel, I can assure you it will be an uphill task.
They will lose out.
It will be an uphill task.
They've also, accepted that fact. Perhaps they know that, well, in as much as they are gaining traction, just like you said, coming together will be in their best interest.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Nusutanko,
Yeah.
What hope for Nigerians? You are the midwives, so to speak, people who have been pushing for this. What extra efforts are you making to ensure that it didn't end, didn't die and be buried, just like someone said?
That is why we keep on putting the issues on the front burner. And for gladiators to see reason as regard to options available that can be of interest to everybody in concern. Because really, just like I said, if the interest is actually Nigeria, for us it's a Nigeria that is targeting our target. It's not any individual. Once that can be achieved, everybody has enough to do. If you want to really contribute to rescue this country, this is the best opportunity that you can ever have at this particular moment. So just take advantage of it. So we are talking, and I must confess that apart from the principal actors discussing, there are other contending forces doing the talking too, trying to make sure that
it works.
So it's not about Nusutanko or any other person. No, it's gone even beyond me, beyond any of the third force movement that we only provided the template, and we can say that in the place of history of Nigeria, we have done the best. You played a role for the rescuing of this country.
Right.
And it's left for people now to take it up from there. Probably, if the book is going to be written, maybe I'll get a small space somewhere. I'll get a small space and just mention my name. I was just there, and I'll be glad for that. I'll be grateful. Because what I'm interested in is my country.
Yes.
I think my country can be better than what it is today.
Dr. Agbo, is there a possibility of shifting grounds to achieve this objective?
Well, the positions are quite clear. And I think we've dwelt extensively on what should be the indices, for them to arrive at this decision. But the first thing is, like Tanko has said, there are several layers of this discussion. So if somebody has come out to say this discussion is dead and buried, that is at that layer. There are other layers, lower and higher.
But it's a critical stakeholder, a place.
Well, that's, I don't know. I wouldn't know because I don't belong to that side. So what I want to say is we have made our position very clear. Size of followership is number one as a major determinant in arriving at what our position is as of today, that Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso should be the presidential candidate. We've also looked at experience. We've also looked at the pool of the votes, what's possible in terms of votes. And like I said, at 53 now, I don't know if I'm still a youth or I'm an adult now. I don't know.
I think the benchmark is 40 or there.
But I can say, yeah, that means I'm no longer a youth. But I can say that, and I will continue to say it, that I refuse to be taken away by what these youths are saying. But Tanko, my friend, appears to have given into this pressure.
Well,
I'm worried about
more,
that.
More like,
and I hope it works. I like optimism.
We need to be motivated.
Remember that the overriding objective is a Nigeria that is stable, a Nigeria that works for all of us.
That's right.
We've suffered so much, and like he has said, we have a history that is watching us. We hope that at the end of the day, when our children come on board, they should be able to say, these were the roles our fathers played to ensure that we get to this very promising level where we are now.
Right.
It's our sincere hope, but like I would want to say that there is hope. Politics, democracy is about the people. We will continue to move around based on what the people say, because the power is with the people.
Okay, the power is with the people. So, Uche, let me get your last line on this.
My own advice is we just pray that there will be light at the end of the tunnel as far as this alliance talk is concerned. Because if that do not happen, nobody will take them serious again.
Okay. It also has to do with their own political future.
Yes.
That's what it means, isn't
Yes.
it? Okay. And then it is also imperative for Nigerians, especially of the voting age. I think time is fast spent.
Okay, my last line.
You've already got to the last line.
I have my own last line.
Very, very quickly.
Okay, a lady, just a small girl in Katsina, a Fulani girl, woke up in the morning and told her mother that, look, mommy, whether you are voting or not voting, I am voting. Today, I am obedient in Katsina.
You understand? This is not. You have
what I'm trying to say is
we're not here to campaign. We're not here to campaign. I thought you were going to send a key message to the election.
Just like I said, the message for youth, I'm not starting with I'm not campaigning.
It's not a campaign. Right, okay.
I'm not campaigning.
I think bottom line is for Nigerians to, go out there and get their PBCs, which is the ultimate. Do the needful. Elect credible leaders who will change the narratives, who would do, who would provide the necessary governance that is required, to move this country forward. I think that should be the last message. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for talking to us on Daily Politics.
Thank you.
On your behalf and the technical crew, this is where we come to the end of the program. Do join us when we come your way again with another interesting personalities. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day.